spit set up with branches in the middle of that stick poking through the rib cage. We've got meat on the hot coals directly. It's the most primitive method of cooking. It's also very effective. And now we're moving to the rock griddle. In this part of Maine we don't have flat rocks. We have flattish rocks, but it'll work. Just when you're working with rocks, they don't look like they're hot until you pick them up and you burn yourself. And be mindful of the danger of having hot rocks around and messing with them. And all we're going to do is take our forearms here, put them on the rock. And it'll stick from the heat. You see that? And you hear that sizzling already? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to bank some coals underneath here just to keep the heat going. And the last method I want to show, so we've got the rock griddle, we've got right on the coals, and we've got our spit. We're going to build the fire up a little bit for our spit and maybe turn it around so that the meat's next to the fire on this side. Is clay baking. About an inch and a half thick type of pizza dough configuration here. I'd go a little thinner. About an inch. Try to be consistent. The idea of this working, and this works great with fish, because when you take the clay off the fish, it's basically a brick that you're removing with a fish inside. It removes the scales, and so you just have the fresh meat on a clay plate when you're done. With red meat, you know, that doesn't really matter. The indicator that the food is done is that the clay is solid all the way around, just like pottery, and it's starting to crack because the moisture and steam from the meat inside is expanding and trying to escape. So we'll put our meat right in the middle here. That's a little too mushy. Well, I guess we're just going to have to build it. This clay is a little mushy. Too wet. So we're going to encase it. Instead of folding it like a taco, if this was a little more consistent. Wow, this is going to be tricky to put in the fire. A big old glop of clay with a piece of meat in the middle. Here we go. Yeah, I got it. We're going to take this clay, and since we're going to be building up the fire here, just plop it right in. And that'll brick, the heat will turn that into a brick in about, it could be anywhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours. But when you're done, it's like steam pit cooking. The meat is just, it falls off the bone, it's tender, and it's really hard to burn your meat with this method because the juices are locked inside the clay. Every Neanderthal needs quickie tongs for their barbecue pleasure. Basically, I split a stick off, and this is easy to make, and most people already know how to do this at rendezvous and whatnot. You put a little toggle in the middle. I just lashed some natural fibers to keep that split from going all the way through. And we're going to use these quickie tongs to do everything from turn our meat, and you can see the meat in the coals is pretty much done right there. We're going to turn our meat on the hot rock so we don't burn ourselves. There we go. There's that sticking I was telling you about. Alright, just like a barbecue, only. Alright. So yeah, making your quickie tongs is a pretty essential piece to this. Not just for flipping the meat and getting, you know, stuff out of the fire, but for hot rock boiling, you want to reach in there and purify your water and cook your stew at the same time. And also to take a coal out of the fire and coal burn your bowls and spoons. Small fire pit and a lot of cooking demonstration pieces taking up the room, so we're not going to do that today. There's all kinds of other cooking methods. That spit, if we took strips of meat about the size of that extra thick bacon slices, we could drape it over that stick across the fire there and dry out the meat for our winter storage. There's a difference between drying and smoking meat. Drying is just the heat alone, driving away the moisture, and it should be just dry enough that when you bend it, it turns white in the middle of that bend. If it's over-dried, it gets too brittle and crumbly, and it's not very palatable. If it's under-dried, you risk it molding. So smoking imparts the flavor. So you can do both at the same time, and people often do, but just knowing the difference helps to figure out your approach. Food more than I only smoke meat during insect season, and it's not so much for the flavor, but to keep them from laying, you know, their eggs and having maggots on the meat.
Throwing them on the coals is a really simple way to cook it, but you got to be really on it, you know. Smells done.